Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about TagName Locator in detail, working on Selenium with Java. Okay, so quickly I'll create one class here and we'll name this as TagName Locator in detail. I'll select this public static void main. Okay, so the basic code I'm going to just copy of the browser launch and launching the URL. So I will copy this and I'll paste it here to launch the driver and I will use this to launch the URL and maximize this. Okay, now let's understand what is tag name locator. Okay, so we will use this particular website Swag Labs. Let me open this in new browser, sourcedemo.com. Okay, now any element can be identified with tag name, but usually tag names are in multiple. So if you are trying to identify one particular using one particular tag name, then just using the tag name it is little tricky. So I'm going to show you that. So how we will find that? If I click on inspect and take a look at the DOM structure, the tags which you'll see as input, div, these all are tag names which could be used. Okay, so we are going to work with input tag here. So let's say I put input in here. Here if you notice it is showing 1 of 3, so that means there are 3 input tag elements. Okay, now let's try to use it in our script. Okay, so I'm going to take the tricky scenario first and then the simple scenario after this. Okay, so we can write driver dot find element, and instead of find element we are going to use find elements. Okay, so this is one of the famous interview questions as well, that what is the difference between find element and elements. In case of find elements, it is going to search for the different elements and then you can save it. Okay, so find elements and then I'll put by dot tag name here. Okay, now whatever is the tag name, since we are going to work with input, let me show you quickly here in the browser. So this is the tag name input which we are going to work with. Okay, so I'll put input and I will close this. Okay, now sorry, then what comma needs to be here. Now basically this is not a single element, this is a list of elements, and as we can validate from here that there are 3 elements in this. Okay, so locate adding this in one particular element is not going to make sense, so we have to put it in list. Okay, so I will just write tag name locator. Okay, and if I'll scroll above this, it will show me the option to create a local variable. So if I'll click on this, it is by default going to create a list because it understands that it is not a single element, it is elements. Okay, now what happened is, with this particular set of line of code, we are going to identify these 3 elements. Now this whole element is going to get saved in this particular list. Okay, now how to work with this list? Let's say I can do a lot of different operations on this. So if say I put tag name underscore locator and we want to validate that it is 3 in number, if I'll click on dot on this and I'll put size here, so what it is going to give, it is going to give me the size. Okay, now let's say I want to print this out, so I'll write sys out and I'll put this, and I'll put this indicator inside this, control X, and I'll put this here. We're just printing this out to see if it is printing out correctly or not. Okay, so let me run this. This browser is getting launched with the initial code, and then it is coming to this page and going to find the number of elements and get the size of that. So it is going to display 3. So this is working fine for us. Okay, now just getting the size is not going to help us, because usually what we do is we will find that particular element and we'll take an action on this. Okay, so how we can do that? Let me just comment this out. You can save this in an integer as well while for running the loop, or you can put this directly here. So we are going to use another way. So I'll just use a for loop here. I'll put int I, because I is not defined. I'll put int I is equal to 0, and then I'll put I less than tag name underscore locator dot size, and then I'll put I plus plus. Okay. Now if you want, you could have saved this into an integer and then use that value here. Otherwise, you can use it directly as well. Okay. Now, if we will take a look at this, we know that just by navigating and looking into this, that first is pointing to input. So if I click on this focus, and since this is pointing to this, is pointing to username, which is a text field. And if I go to the second property, you can go on this and click on enter, and it will go to the next property, that is password. And if I click on enter, it is going to go to the login page. So in first two web elements, I have to send some keys, and in the last element, in the third element, I have to perform an operation. Click OK. So we'll try to see how that works. So I'm going to write some basic code here, while we can make this more efficient by using while loop or whatever logic we want. But since we are just trying to understand this, I'm going to use some basic code here. So if I is equal to 0, we know that we have to perform a send keys operation because it is going to direct to username. Okay. So what I will write is, I will write tag name underscore locator, that is the web element or web elements, this particular web element. Now this is having more than one element. We have to first get the index. Okay. So if I'll write get, and here you will see get int index web element list. So what we are going to do is, in this particular list, we are going to mention the particular index on which we want to perform an operation. So get I, and here I have put I is equal to 0. So that is going to work like that, and then I have to pass some value. So I'll put send keys, and here if you see on this particular website, this is a mock website, so they've given the details, like, so we'll use this particular argument here, send keys, and we are inputting the username. Now we want to validate else if I is equal to 1. Okay, so that is going to be password. So I'll put tag name underscore locator, and similar thing, get, this is going to give the index. Now I'm just putting I because I'm validating I first, and then I'll put send, sorry, I'll close this, and outside this I'll put this send keys, and I will mention the password. So here if you take a look, this is the password they have mentioned on their website. Okay, so I'll copy this and I'll paste this here. So with these two commands, I am accessing the web elements using a loop because it is stored in a list. Okay, now else if I is equal to 2, what I want to do is, I want to perform a, I want to click on that. Okay, so it will depend what kind of web element you are working. Obviously you need to mention whatever type of web element it is there, and you should take action accordingly. So since this is a button, I'm going to click on this. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to perform a operation in which we are entering the username, password, and then clicking on this. Okay, so let's try this out. I'll click on run, and as you can see, it entered the username, password, and then our page is loaded correctly. Let me just put a or you can put a wait statement here, or I'll just quickly run this again to show you. See username, password, and then clicked on login. Okay, so this is how we can work when we are working with a list of web elements. Okay, now this was one way of using tag name. Now second way is, what would happen if we, let's say, change this thing. I will comment this entire thing out, and I will copy this. Okay, let's say instead of elements I am putting element. Okay, then what would happen? This will turn out to be an error because it is a single element, so I don't need a list. So if I remove this and I remove this, then it is going to be validated fine. Okay, now when we mention just find element, whatever is the first element, it is going to perform action on that. Okay, now here we have validated that it is username, so now whatever actions we are going to perform on this is going to perform on the first element. That's how it works. So if I put tag name underscore locator dot and send keys, and let's say I'll put testing here. Okay, and I'll close this and we'll quickly run this, because since we are just trying to launch this URL and pass in the username, that is how it is going to work. So if I run this, 1 second, I think I've missed some. Yeah, should be fine now. Yeah, so as you can see, browser is launched and it is going to put testing in whatever field you want. Okay, so that's how the tag name works. In case it is a list, you can use list as well. In case you want to perform it on a first element, you can do that as well. Now this is not so widely used, but there are obviously going to be conditions in which this is going to be very helpful. But that's how you cover it in list or in a single element. I am going to put this entire code into the comment section and description section, and in case you like my content, do like, share and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye bye. Thank you.